Narayan, we start. Sahana bhavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Sah Viryam Karvavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmad Acharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसम्मूढचेताः यश्रेयस्यानिश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मय शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम् ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविर्मयेति वेदस्य म आणिस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासिः अनेन अधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मावतु तद्वक्तारम् अवतु अवतु मामवतु वक्तारम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येम अक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गे स्तुष्टवाग्वं स्वस्तिनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नो राष्ट्रो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिपृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतम् अस्मि द्रविणग्वं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Narayan, everyone.
Okay, so we'll start with Shlok 7. Yeah. So in last class, we covered Shlok up to Shlok 6, 4 to 6. Now just to remind ourselves, we are doing, we are on chapter 10, Vibhuti Yog. And in this chapter, Bhagwanji is going to reveal to us his his basically his expressions, right, of how he expresses himself in this world yet again, right? So it's a repetition, right? So he's been telling us in this entire thing from chapter 7 onwards, he's been telling us what are his expressions in this world. And why is he telling Arjun this? Because he's talking to Arjun, Arjun is the person of the world. Okay. So if he is a person of the world, he has to constantly act in the world, right? And then if he's constantly acting in the world, the problem is that the world is extremely it's extremely glamorous, right? And it has a way of capturing our imagination. And if that happens, then we are going to get stuck. Bandhan ho jayega, right? And our purpose is to use this world to reach him, correct? And because of that, but you have to continue to act in this world. So then how are you going to achieve this oxymoron, right? That's why now Bhagwanji is saying, okay, now you have to act in this world. How will you keep your chitta? How will you keep your mind? How will you keep your intellect firmly anchored in me? By being able to see me everywhere, in every activity, in every VVGP. And that is why he is now spending all of this time to explain to us how do we see him, identify him in the world around us. Okay. So another interesting thing is that he understands ki Arjun ki buddhi kahan hai, where is our level of consciousness. And our level of consciousness even now is extremely gross. And so the vibhutis he will tell us are the vibhutis of the highest order. They are extraordinary capacity in their categories. He has to tell us about those extraordinary capacities because our intellect and our consciousness is at such a gross level that we are asleep half the time. We are asleep. And so the only thing that really captures our attention is when it's extraordinary. We are unable to see Bhagavatva. We are unable to see him in the ordinary day-to-day activities. We become wowed only when we see something out of the ordinary. And he understands that. And that's why all the vibhutis he will tell us are of extraordinary greatness. Okay. It does not mean, though, that he's only present when there are extraordinariness, when there is extra amazingness that we see around us. Okay, he's also present in everyday activity. He's not just present in an amazingly beautiful red rose. He's also present in a small flower that you might not even notice when you're walking past because it is hidden in the grass. All right. So as our consciousness starts to become subtler and subtler and subtler, we'll be able to see the beauty in every flower, however mundane it may be. We'll be able to see his beauty, his grace in everyday small activities, in ordinary day-to-day life. That's where we are intending to reach. However, to get us to see him first as a first step, start to identify him through these vilakshan vibhutis, through these extraordinary vibhutis he's telling us. And the first of the in shlok 4 and 5, when he talked about various feelings. So actually between 4 and 6, he has told us his vibhutis in the form of various feelings, the bhav, that come up inside the human consciousness. So he talks about those feelings. Then he also talks about people who represent certain types of consciousness, right? Sanatan, the rishis, all of those things that he talked to us, right? They represent certain types of activities or certain types of consciousness or certain types of situations around us. So the vyakti and the bhav that he has explained to us, it all starts with what? Intellect. The first one he talks about it, right? Everything has a purpose. What happens, what he says, what he does, in what order is of extraordinary importance. It's by design, and it's not by any chance that he's talking about intellect as the first vibhuti. Intellect is super important because when you look at the world, right, our senses see things as they are. You see taste of the food, and so your tongue will be attracted to tasty food. Chips feel really good, right? So you will be attracted to chips because they taste really good. You'll be attracted to certain types of sweets because they taste really good. That's the job of your senses. They are attracted to, like attracts like in this world. That's a very standard law. Okay, and it rules a lot of things. You have to understand how deeply important this law is. Like attracts like. There is in Hindi, the word is jatiyata. When you belong to the same jati, you belong to the same community or the type, you will be attracted to it and they will be attracted to you. All right. So your tongue has a jatiyata to ras, to taste. Okay, so it will be attracted to everything that is tasty, right? Processed food tastes very good. You will be attracted to it. But intellect is the one that sees beyond what is obvious to the senses. Intellect would help us understand, and it can see that, oh, no, if you eat this food looks really beautiful, your eyes are attracted to it, it's presented so well, your smell, the food, the smell that is coming from it smells really good, so your nose is attracted to it, by the sense of smell. Your tongue is attracted to it because the sense of taste. But it is the intellect that sees whether this food is good or bad for your body. This can cause long-term diseases, even though it gives me short-term pleasure, right? That disease component or the health component behind the food is not seen by the senses. It is seen by the intellect. That is why intellect is so important, because intellect allows you to see beyond the obvious. It is the only thing that will allow you to see that, oh, this vibhuti means God. In tattva, in essence, it is God. Okay, that's why intellect is the first vibhuti he's talked about. And then he goes on to talk about, now, important thing that we have to remember in 4 and 5 was that he has listed 20 qualities, right? And out of these, 12 are singular, whereas 4 come in pairs. So there are pairs of 8, right? Those 4 pairs are the only ones where both the positive and the seemingly negative qualities are expressions of Bhagwanji. That means the negative that exists is also because Bhagwanji wants it to be there. It is there for our preservation, for our good. What were those 4? What were those 4 pairs? Does anybody remember? We can go one by one. Anybody?
Birth and death.
Yes. Birth and
Fame and infamy, happiness and unhappiness, and fear and fearlessness.
Correct. Right. And we understood in depth why each of those is important to us for our own benefit, for our own preservation, right? For our own progress. The negatives of the rest 12.
Fame and infamy, right? 19
Yeah.
and 20.
Yeah, correct. So the rest 12, the negative side of those 12 are not impelled by God. They are not created by God. They are there because of the absence of God or the absence of understanding of God. That's why they come in. They come in when your ego is separate from God, when you do not have a sense of unity, when there is a sense of duality. That is when the negative of the other 12 come into play. Another important thing from Shlok 6 was, we talked about the rishis, the manus, the 14 manu, the 10 rishi, and the 4 Sanak, Sanatan, and Sanat Kumar, right? So which represent path of pravritti and path of nivritti. Nivritti comes before pravritti. Before you can take something on, you have to let something go. Our patra is this much. You have to, if that glass is full of dirty water, your first job is to take the dirty water out. Leave certain things, leave habits, leave your manyata, your understanding of how the world is or how you should live life. Those manyatas, wrong manyata, have to be left over. You have to let go of certain habits. You have to let go of anger. You have to let go of your selfishness. You have to let go of your ego, right? You have to let things go and then fill the space up with the basically God. Okay, so that nivritti comes before pravritti is very important. If there is no space inside of you, then you cannot fill it up. For you to create space for swadhyay, you need to find out what do you need to give up first. You can't just continue to live a life exactly as it is and say, okay, now within this I will also put in swadhyay. It won't get fit in because you created no space for it. So nivritti before pravritti for everything. that concept. Okay, whether it is physical concept, it's activity, it's action, it's behavior, it's whatever it is. It has to be nivritti before pravritti. Okay. Is there anything else missing? Okay. So we'll start with shlok 7. Nana, you want to read with us?
Sure. Now the Lord describes the consequence of a deep comprehension of the above.
Etam vibhutim yogam cha
Etam vibhutim yogam cha
mam yo veti tattvataha
mam yo veti tattvataha
so vikampena yogena
so avikampena yogena
yujyate natra samshayah.
yujyate natra samshayah.
Etam means this. Vibhutim means the sublime, the sublimities. Yogam is the yoga shakti. So Vibhutim is the Vibhuti Shakti, the sublimity. Yogam is the yoga shakti. We'll go into detail about each of these shaktis forward. Mama is mine. Yo, one who, Veti, knows, Tattvataha, by Tattva, in essence. So Vikampena, Saha is that person. Avikampena, unshakable, avichal, unshakable. Yogain, the yoga, the Shakti, yoga Shakti. Yujyate, connected. Natra samshayah, there is no doubt. Samshaya is doubt. No doubt, there is no doubt. Natra samshaya.
One who clearly comprehends the supreme sublimities of mind, and this yoga power of mind becomes conjoined to the unshakable yoga. There is no doubt about this. Self-realization by the perception of his sublimity and his yoga power. So long as the human mind is engrossed in the diversity of forms of objects of the world, on account of the different physical manifestations, it continues to derive feelings of happiness and unhappiness due to its attitudes of attachment with and aversion to them. But when the entire manifested creation appears as originating from the Lord and as consisting of diverse aspects of his sublimity, one becomes unshakably established in devotion to the Lord.
Okay. So this paragraph
Yoga.
talking about the Vibhuti Shakti. What is Vibhuti Shakti? Okay. And the next paragraph, we will talk about the Yoga Shakti. Let's read this and then we will come back to it because I want to start from Yoga Shakti and then we'll come back to Vibhuti Shakti.
Yoga. This word is used in widely different connotations. It literally means a conjunction, and in its wider aspect, it is taken to mean an integrated harmony. Contemplation of the feelings arising in the mind, as enumerated in shlokas 4 and 5, and thinking of creation as manifestation of the sublimity of the Lord, described in shloka 6, lead to an integral conjunction with the Lord.
You want to take something?
Sure. So in this shloka, he very clearly highlights the importance of knowledge and the importance of gyan. So even in the shloka, right, he says clearly comprehends the supreme sublimity. It's not blind faith. It is using the right knowledge to be able to see his subtleness, sublimity that exists all around us. And once you have that, that is when you experience true bhakti, true yoga, true connection with Bhagwanji. It is not blind faith. It's all about sharpening our own intellect to be able to see him, to be able to see his divine manifestations. Right? So, and the second piece, which is what Tuina, I think, will cover, is in this chapter and in the last couple of shlokas, we read about his divine manifestations in the form of qualities, in the form of emotions, in the form of bhav.
Can you please put it on? Have you put it on quiet?
Yeah. In the form of bhav. And once we see and once we experience that, it is our intellect that will recognize him within us and all around us for us to be connected to him. And the whole journey is what? The whole journey is we are right now a singular drop in the ocean, and we are attached to that identity of being an individual, unique drop. And the whole journey is acquiring the right knowledge to believe and know that we are the ocean. That is the whole journey. From being one single drop, unique identity, ego, the whole journey is knowing that we are the ocean. And that journey requires us to work on our intellect, collect the right knowledge, work on our antakaran, and then know it.
So I'll add to this. I was saying that we need to understand the concept of Yoga Shakti and Vibhuti Shakti a little bit more. Okay? Yoga Shakti is we've used yoga in so many different ways, right? Yoga in general in Gita tends to mean connection, right? Here in this space, it is being used in the form of Yoga Shakti. Okay, Yoga Shakti is the Shakti of creation. It basically means that which is the source, the Adi, the Adi of it, the source of everything. And Vibhuti Shakti is the prabhav of it, the effect of it, the expression of it. Okay. So what is being talked about here is that you have to understand that one who understands the Yoga Shakti and the Vibhuti Shakti, which is the effect of this Yoga Shakti in this world, he really understands me at the core. Okay. Now, when we are not in yoga, then we are in bhog. There is no other way to it. Okay, you are either connected to Lord or you're doing bhog. When you're doing bhog, basically, what does that mean? That your intellect has become gross. It has now reduced to the level of bhog shakti. So your intellect is the top one, right? You remember that Srishti Chakra, right? In that Srishti Chakra, you have consciousness, Bhagwanji here, and then everything else comes below that, right? There are these three gunas, and below that comes intellect. Now, this intellect, why is there so much emphasis here? Because everything else falls below intellect. Your antakaran, your chitta, your ego, your mind, everything falls below intellect. So intellect is the most important thing here, because this can turn. You turn intellect to face God, it starts to reflect Bhagwanji in it. It starts to reflect Rama Vritti, Krishna Vritti. Okay, and if it turns here, then it starts to reflect Sansar. Okay, it's just a matter of turning it. It's not difficult at all. You know, as intelligent people of this world, we tend to identify with stuff that is very complicated. We like to make our lives complicated. We like complicated things because a lot of intellectualism goes into it, right? You're trying to understand something complicated, you use your brain, blah, blah. Everything driven by ego makes us feel good. So intelligent, right? So smart. So I'm able to understand something complicated. I'm able to do something complicated. We are paid more when we are doing something complicated versus simpler things. People don't get paid more. So everything around us tends to show or put us in that direction, which tells us that complicated things are more important. So people are more interested in intellectualizing Vedas, in being able to talk long sentences, being able to do tark vitark. Okay, but they're not interested in simple things that help us actually actualize the knowledge into our actions. Right now, important thing here is that it's actually not difficult and very simple. So the first one of the manyatas that we have to do nivritti of is that complicated is good and simple stuff can't lead to extraordinary results. Okay, that's the first nivritti. And then do a pravritti of adoption of the simple habits that have been told to us. Okay. Now, another interesting thing here is that everything that Bhagwanji is telling us is at the level of perception, not at the level of action. Everything is at the level of perception. He's not telling you don't do what you do on a daily basis. You have to go to office. You have to do your daily work in office. You have to come home. You have to do your duties at home. You have to be a part of a community. You have to do everything. There's no conversation around that level. Conversation is that how do you change your perception of whether you're acting for sansar or whether you're acting for God. The problem is at the level of perception. So the answer also has to be at a level of perception. The perception has to change. Your intellect has to move away from sansar and it has to start reflecting Bhagwanji. At the level of intellect, you start identifying these vibhutis. You start identifying that this vibhuti Shakti is only because of him. You see a person, you see a feeling, you see any of those aspects of Bhagwanji, you see any of those aspects in this world, you have to be able to immediately say, oh, this is Bhagwanji being reflected. You see somebody, right? You see a good movie, a really, really well-made movie, very well-told story. You see amazing cinematography. You look at it and you identify Bhagwanji in there. You hear a story, the moral that is coming out of it, you hear that Bhagwanji is speaking to you. You see somebody's beautiful painting, you say, boss, that is Bhagwanji's reflection in that person. You hear a beautiful voice, you hear Bhagwanji in it. Then you stop giving importance to that specific Vilakshan Shakti. You stop giving importance to the person. You instead create a connection to Bhagwanji in that person, in that feeling, in that object. That's how you will then stay connected. Why is this important? And how do you identify whether you are in connection with the Lord or are you in connection with the sansar? How do you identify that? Very simple. Look, everything here is very, very simple. The only thing that is standing in between us and those simple teachings here and their adoption is our ego, which wants to make things complicated and is unable to accept stuff that is simple. And of course, our ego wants to survive on its own, right? So all of those issues come. Why is this important? How will you find out? Is when our intellect looks down to sansar and it is reflecting sansar, then our intellect is bhog buddhi. Then we are constantly consuming. हम भोग कर रहे हैं दुनिया का. Okay, हम भोग कर रहे हैं. Okay, when we are doing bhog, then our shakti, our power gets reduced. Our strength is reduced. The vastu, the object that we are doing the bhog of, also gets reduced. दोनों तरफ हानि है. There's a loss on both sides. One who is consuming, जो भोगता है, one who is consuming, one who is having it, is one who is enjoying it, his power is being reduced. The object that is being consumed or is being taken, is being partaken of, that also reduces. Okay. When you are in yoga instead, okay, one more thing. There are two types. When you have bhog buddhi.
Here's a question.
Okay, I'll just finish the sentence, then we'll come to this question, right? So when there is bhog buddhi, you will have bhog via padarth, right? You will consume an object, or you will do bhog via kriya, karma, kriya, actions, right? Both of them will create then bandhan. क्रिया से आपका बंधन होगा, भोग के पदार्थ से आपका बंधन होगा, right? By consuming the object. In both cases, there will be bandhan and your shakti is going to get reduced. When you are in yoga, on the other hand, when you are in yoga and you're reflecting Bhagwanji, your shakti, your strength will not get reduced. Okay? Shakti ka sanchay hota hai, या शक्ति का वृद्धि होती है. Either you conserve energy or you create new energy. As in the last class, we understood this is the real meaning of tap. When we do tap, there is a tap shakti that is created. When you do tap, you are in yoga. So there is a shakti that is created. There is a strength, a new type of strength that is created and is conserved within us, within one of the panchakoshas. So we become stronger. Bhog mein shakti gets reduced. In yoga, shakti is increased. All right. Yes, Rituj.
Yeah, just this line that you said about one needs to do nivriti for pravriti. If you can just explain what nivriti is, because nivriti, as per Google, is just bliss. So if I don't know if I've got the right meaning.
So we're talking of path of nivritti and path of pravritti. Okay, path of nivritti. And so if you just look at the concept of path of nivritti, it is generally considered the path of Sankhya yogis, the path of Jnana yogis. So they leave everything. Nivritti means leaving. Pravritti means taking. Okay, so path of nivritti generally refers to the Jnana yogis, that they slowly let things go until they are one with God, and then they do not have any duties left. They don't have any relationships left, because their relationship becomes with everybody, and they don't have any duties left, but they continue to do their actions in the world. So that's the path of nivritti of the Jnana yogis, generally speaking. Okay, path of pravritti is generally the path of the grahas, the karma yogis. Okay, as exemplified by all the rishis. All the rishis that have been talked about, they have all been grahast. They have all had families, they've all had children, and they've continued to do their duty as sages, as saints, while living the path of pravritti. Okay, at a high level, that is what they mean. So they are talking about path of pravritti also comes from Bhagwanji, path of nivritti also comes from Bhagwanji. They are all created by Brahmaji, right? They are all children of Brahmaji. The names that have been given there are the names of Brahmaji. So what does it mean at a subtle level? That they all have come from Bhagwanji. Okay, but there are certain types of people who will follow the path of nivritti. There are certain types of people who will follow the path of pravritti. Now, this is when you're talking about at a high level, right? Like a lifetime of nivritti, a lifetime of pravritti. But as we know, with everything else, you have to, it's like a holographic concept. Everything that we talk about, life is holographic. This world is a hologram. Okay, so all these concepts, when you start to distill them lower and lower and subtler, everything comes back down to you, inside of you. So what, you have a path of nivritti to follow. You have a path of pravritti to follow. Okay, you have to have both in you. What does it mean on a daily basis for you? Okay, and you will discover many meanings of this along the way in your journey. But for now, one of the things that we are trying to bring out is that you have to do nivritti first, follow the path of nivritti first, to let go of certain things, and then follow the path of pravritti to bring things in. Okay, so just remember that concept of nivritti comes before pravritti in everything. So when you're thinking about buying clothes, pravritti, please think about, consider giving away a same number of clothes out first. Create space in your wardrobe to accept new things. Thinking of buying new furniture, give up something first. What will you take out? Otherwise, there is going to be even more clutter in your house. Clutter in your physical space shows clutter in your mind. We have to declutter as on the part of nivritti. Declutter your life. Declutter your life of unnecessary actions, unnecessary conversations, unnecessary thoughts, unnecessary feelings. Path of nivritti. Okay, you will realize how many actions we do which are useless, which are unnecessary. I wouldn't call them useless, but like unnecessary, that can declutter your life. How many times you will go and like, oh, now let's go and shop. How much time you'll spend? Half a day, 1 day outside shopping, tired. Shakti ka kshana. Shakti has gone out of you. Okay, when you're doing bhog, let's do window shopping. For what purpose? For what purpose? Okay, so path of nivritti in your life, followed by path of pravritti. First, you give up, create space in your time, in your house, in your mind. Then you will start to acquire other things that will take up that space. Bhagwanji will come to your door and he will say, oh, everything is full. There's no place for me to sit. If your yagya, if your place of yagya is already filled with everybody, where will Bhagwanji come and sit? He'll come and he say, I'm not invited. There is no space for me. So nivritti creates space. Okay. And now that can be applied in so many different ways in everything you do. Okay. So, okay. So we were talking about the bhog and the yog buddhi, right? Why do people do bhog? Why does our intellect turn into bhog buddhi? Because we expect sukh from it, right? We expect happiness out of it. And this was another thing that we learned, right, in the last shloka, that there was this truth, non-delusion, the third Vilakshan Shakti that he had talked about, the Vibhuti, non-delusion. What is the greatest delusion in this world? The greatest delusion is expectation of happiness from this world. That is the greatest delusion that we had heard of, right? So if you have that delusion, you have the delusion of getting sukh from sansar. That is why you have bhubuddhi. We only have bhubuddhi because of that delusion. Real happiness is not in doing bhog, but doing sanyam of bhog, discipline of bhog. When you control your senses, you control your mind. Dam and sham, as you talked about in last class as well. So dam and sham were also introduced, right? Self-restraint and calmness. Dam, self-restraint. Number 6. Self-restraint, dam, control of senses. Calmness, control of mind. Sham, dam and sham. The part of the Shata Shakti, Shata Sampatti that we had talked about in last class. They are the real sources of happiness. And now what kind of sanyam, what kind of discipline, and what kind of Shakti comes from that, right? So there are two types of sanyams, two types of restraint that we follow. दूसरों पे शासन करने का संयम और अपने पर शासन करने का संयम, right? When we shasan, meaning we rule ourselves. So the discipline or the control over ourselves, we rule ourselves. We may think, you might think that we control ourselves, but actually our senses control us all the time. Our mind controls us all the time. We are constantly driven by likes and dislikes. We think that we are a very disciplined set of people, but if you actually go down deep and you ask yourself and you stop lying to yourself, you will realize that, yeah, you have discipline in several areas of your life, because those areas you like. Discipline in areas of like is easier to achieve. The real discipline comes when we apply that discipline in the things we don't like to do. Our intelligence and our ego comes into play to justify why we are not applying discipline in those areas of life that we don't like. Right? So discipline over ourselves, the sanyam over shasan over ourselves, when we start to rule ourselves, that's one type of sanyam. Very, very important. The first most important type of sanyam. The second is dusro par shasan. Dusro par shasan ka sanyam, control, restrain of when you're doing shasan over others, when you're ruling over others. We do rule over others every single day. We rule over and they rule over us. We rule over them. We rule over our children. We rule over our parents. We rule over our families. We rule over our colleagues. We rule over our friends. There are two types of ruling over others. One is bhog buddhi, when we rule over others for our pleasure. What can I get out of this person? Okay, when you're acting out of selfish interests. And the second type of ruling is when you act out of their own best interest. Okay, when you're ruling out of best interest for others, then you will do what is needed to do to help them. You are always thinking about their ultimate benefit first, not their pleasure, not their pleasure and pain. You're not ruling them for their pleasure and pain. You're ruling them from a space of their ultimate welfare, which means that when you're ruling over your children in that manner, you will not give in to the processed food that they want to eat because it's super tasty and it will make them happy and they will like you because of that. No, you're okay to discipline them, to say, no, this is not correct for you and I will not allow you, even if that means there's a tantrum that's going to go on. Okay. Now, having said that, there's always a way of disciplining. You can scream and shout at the child, or you can explain it to the child and have the patience to explain it, right? So that's a different part of it. But there's intention where you're coming from. The highest quality of the second type of sanyam of that shasan is Bhagwanji's shasan over us. Because he's ruling over this world, he's ruling over this creation, he's ruling over us. His ruling comes from that sanyam for our benefit, for our ultimate welfare. He does that. And we have to take this example. Everything he does is an example to us. He's doing it. He doesn't need to do anything. We read that in chapter 2, in chapter 3. He has no duties. He has nothing to do, yet he continues to do his duty to stand as an example, as a model to all of us on how we need to live our lives. So that's the kind of shasan we need to have, or the administration, or the rule that we have to have over others, how we influence others for their benefit and not for our pleasure and pain. That sanyam is where the real sukh comes from, the restraint that we do, the dam and sham that we exercise over ourselves and our faculties. So what he's saying is that in the second line, he says that person who really understands this, who understands the difference between bhog buddhi and yog buddhi, the one who can see me in all VVGP like this, is the only person who really, really understands me in the essence. And the one who understands me in the essence, he is connected to me and is going to be unshakable in his yoga with me. There is no doubt about it. Because there is no other way. And how will you find out? Is when you start to see yourself, observe your feelings, observe your behavior. You will know if you are in a negative space, right? You may be tired. Tiredness is okay. Physical tiredness is okay. It will happen. It's law of nature. Physically, you're tired when you're doing something, but mentally you're in a calm, happy space for having done that effort. You are in yoga. If that physical exertion has led to mental agitation, mental upset, if you're angry, if you're in a negative space, you're in a space where you're like, why am I doing everything? Why is nobody else doing it? And I only have to do everything. And then you're in a space of blaming everybody. Any of that negative space, you're not in yoga. You're in bhog. There's bhog buddhi going on. In Yog Buddhi, you're in a space of happiness. You're in a space of calmness. You have to get stuff done. You will get it done. You have to delegate to others. You have to get others to get their stuff done. You will get them to do things. You will get them to see it from a point of view that helps them understand how it is good for them to get certain things done. And you will speak of all of those things from a space of truth, not from a space of lie. With the space of truth, when you're talking to others, we try and show how things are good for others while we are really constantly seeking to benefit ourselves. Right? So win-win, you can achieve the win-win solutioning. You can achieve from a bhog buddhi as well as from a yog buddhi. So you'll find out whether you're achieving it from a bhog buddhi or yog buddhi by seeing your mental state. How are you placed mentally?
So I'll add to this, right? Yoga and bhog, as Tuina mentioned, it's all a perception. And you are in a yoga state, or I am in a yoga state when I am feeling calm and I am feeling in control of where I am internally, where other people, external circumstances not affecting me. That is when I know I am in yoga. Because everything that is coming to me, I can accept as prasad. It doesn't matter external tragedy ho rahi hai, external pain ho raha hai. All of that doesn't matter to me because I am in a state of calm and equanimity, so I can accept everything as prasad. The moment you feel this internal turmoil, as Tuina has mentioned, that is just a reminder that you are not in yoga anymore. And you need to get back to that internal state of yoga. It is like the water bubbles, but the water is bubbling just for you to become aware that you're bubbling again. It's time to go back and find yoga. Because you're no longer in yoga, you're now subconsciously, you've gone into bhog. Somewhere, something has triggered it. right? So, and life, external life only happens for your internal state to reflect itself. So you could be a 2-year-old child. He also interacts with the world in such a way based on his likes and dislikes for his vasanas and antakaran to come out. And the same thing with us. That's the only thing for us to focus on and work upon.
So as an example, in my own life, if I have to say, when I'm using, so when Abhinav was saying, like, are you in control or is something else in control, right? I'll give a very, one example that I use it's become very obvious to me over last few years. When I'm dealing with Vedant, okay? And there are times when he's going to do things which require me to, restrain him and apply discipline to him. And I have to use anger as a tool to get him to do things, or I need anger to like control him sometimes because he's completely out of control and I have to like restrain him. When I am in yoga, okay, two things happen. One, I use anger. I will be stern. I will use anger and I will get him in control, get him to do what I need him to do. But one is, I first internally, I'm completely calm. Okay, that I can go from like this, I'm screaming at you and shouting at you to get you to do things because you're not listening to me. And the moment I see there is an effect has happened, like he has turned, immediately my language has changed, my tone of voice has changed, and I'm feeling zero change in my internal state. My
But that's not
heartbeat, my
anger.
breath.
That is using tools of anger.
That's what I'm saying. I use the word, I use it as
So
a
you're
tool.
using the tool.
That's what I said. That I am using this tool. I'm using anger as a
Not
tool.
anger. You're using raising voice as a tool. You're using sternness in eyes as a
In
tool.
his point of view, from his point of view, he looks at me and he
So
thinks Mama is angry.
he sees that as anger, but not
Yeah.
using anger because you're not anger.
I'm not angry, but I'm using anger as a tool.
So you're
Okay.
using physical tools.
Yeah. So, but I'm not angry internally. Okay. And now this is me knowing it, that I'm not angry, right? But the other person also knows it, because Vedant's behavior is that he does not get upset with me. He does it, and after that, immediately after that, my relationship with him is completely okay. We are laughing, we are playing, we are happy. Okay. There's no change in our interaction. When I get actually angry, when I know that I have actually become angry inside and I don't have control over it, he also knows it. So he will do what I ask him to do. But after that, there is sourness in our relationship. He's going to be upset with me. I have transferred my upset into him. He does not play with me after that. He's sullen, he's upset. If I'm telling him to get his brush done, he will brush his teeth. But after that, he's sullen.
So imagine.
And he will move away. And this is a child. I've seen this, that when I lose control, I'm saying exactly the same thing, that go brush your teeth and I need this brush done in next 5 minutes. Okay. When I am angry, he is angry and upset and we are unhappy with each other for next 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then we have to make up. Versus when I'm not angry and I'm just using it as a tool and I am calm, that calmness reflects in him as well. And he's not upset with me. He will brush and we are totally fine. This is a very big example of knowing when you are in yoga versus you're in bhog, doing exactly the same action and the impact it creates in the environment around you. Very small example, but it's just one of those things. You will realize this when you start to pay attention to yourself.
And if it happens
in your every action.
It happens with a child, it happens with everyone.
Correct.
With your spouses, with your work. The best way to visualize this actually is emotion is like a candle, a lit candle. And any emotion, if you go to somebody else and their candle is not lit, what will happen? Whatever candle you're lighting, whatever fire you have, will get passed on there. So if you are feeling a certain irritation, emotion, joy, happiness, divinity, everything will light for the other person.
We'll move. Anita, you'll read with us?
Yes, I can.
It's good to see you after so long.
Yeah. Connection. Explaining how integration is affected by the Lord says,
Aham sarvasya prabhavo.
Aham sarvasya prabhahom.
Actually, it's prabhavaha. Sorry. So we'll read this again. Yeah. Aham sarvasya prabhavaha.
Aham sarvasya prabhavaha.
Mattah sarvam pravartate.
Matta sarvam pravartate.
Iti matva bhajante mam.
Iti matva bhajanteva.
Buddha bhava swasamanvitaha.
Vidabhava samanvitaha.
Aham is me. Sarvasya everything. Prabhavaha effect, my effect. Everything is my effect. Mattaha sarvam pravartate. Pravartate is activated. Sarva is again everything. By me. Mattaha by me. Iti this. Matva understanding. Bhajante worship. Mam me. Buddha intelligent people or wise people. Buddhiman people. Bhava samanvitaha with shraddha prem, with like faithful loving feeling.
Everything originates from me. Everything is activated by me. Comprehending thus, the wise ones imbued the loving feeling, worship me. Origination of universe and evaluation of its activities from the Lord. In this shloka, the Lord emphasized that the entire visible universe has sprung from his sublimity. All actions, interaction and reaction, and the entire field of diverse activities, behavior, dealing, and conduct owe their existence to him. By a constant contemplation of this fact, one steadily gets established in faith, devotion, and his worship.
So what he's saying is that Prabhavaha, everything is his effect. Okay, it is affected because of him. He creates things, right? So everything is he is the Prabhav, he's the Karan, he's the Mool Roop, he's the Adi, he's the starting point of everything, right? So that is the main meaning of Prabhavaha, that I am Prabhavaha, I am the effect of everything. And Matta Sarva Pravartate, everything is activated because of me. So when things are created, they change. So all the forces of change, all the actions that cause change, they are also from his energy. He is the Mool Roop of everything. So the smart people, intelligent people, wise people, who are those who is he calling intelligent? He's calling those people intelligent who understand this. And because they know it, because they have understood it, so they love him, they have a lot of faith in him, they have a lot of shraddha for him, and with that bhav, they are always worshipping him. And how do they worship him? Worshipping is not just puja. Of course it is puja of him. You're actually doing proper puja in a temple. That is his puja. Reading your shastras is his puja. Singing his bhajans is his puja. Talking to others, your everyday life, the way you treat others, the way you talk to others, the way you do your work, the way you approach your every single duty you have in your life, the way you approach every single relationship you have in your life. When you do all of those things as if you're only interacting with God alone, that is the real worship. Because if you're intelligent enough to be able to see him everywhere, there is nothing else. No, there is no one else that you're dealing with. So that is what he also said in last, this thing is matva, knowing me in the essence is this. If you are looking at a person and their beauty, their intelligence, some quality, or you're seeing somebody express a certain type of emotion, maybe that of like, charity or kindness or love, and you are moved by it, right? An expression of any kind of feeling, an expression of a quality, an expression of, whenever you look at these, or you look at an object, or and you admire it, or you look at a person and you admire that person, in all of those things, if you are looking at them separate from the Lord, that means there's duality. The moment there is duality, you've not understood the essence.
So
When you're appreciating a song and you are thinking of it only as a song, and you're appreciating it, what a beautiful voice, what a beautiful song, what lovely words, what lovely music, but you're not seeing Bhagwanji in it, you're not hearing Bhagwanji in it, and you're not associating expression of Bhagwanji in each of those aspects, that means there is duality. There is duality. If there is duality, you've not understood it in a sense, then there is no connection. But when you are listening to a song and you can see and hear Bhagwanji and you're associating it to Bhagwanji, this is Bhagwanji, wow. Wow, what beautiful voice he can create. What beautiful lyrics he can create. Look at his expression. Look at the music he has created via, of course, A, B, C as tools who have become his medium of expression, but it is him expressing in each of those cases. When you think of it, and that's the only thought in your head, is when you understood him in the essence and you're in his worship, even when you're listening to a song.
So the other aspect, right, the first aspect that Duvina touched upon, which is the core principle here, is Gyan and love. To love something, you have to know it. You have to understand it. You cannot love. Knowledge fuels love, right? The knowledge of your partner, knowledge of anything fuels love. I'll give you an example. I go to a store and I buy a random cricket bat, or I see a cricket bat online, say Amazon. How much am I willing to pay for it? Whatever, I'll be like, theek hai, English willow, so maybe 4,000 rupees, 3,000 rupees, theek hai. Now, suppose that bat has a sticker, which is the same sticker used and endorsed by Virat Kohli. How much are you willing to pay for it? You're like, boss, this bat has far more value than 3,000 rupees. I'm willing to pay 10,000 rupees, right? Now you go deeper and you realize this is the cricket bat that was first used by Sachin Tendulkar to make 100. What is its market value now? Crores. Same piece of wood. What has happened? People have been able to attach more love and significance to it because of knowledge. Same thing with Bhagwanji.
And in the same example, somebody like me who does not understand any of these things will not be able to see that value, right? So love will increase with knowledge.
So,
and that's why bhakti and gyan always go together. Anybody who says that you can have bhakti without gyan or gyan without bhakti does not understand it. That's why you have these three shatak in Gita. There is karma yoga, there's bhakti yoga, and then there is gyan yoga. Sorry.
So the only thing to finish there is the importance of our effort of comprehending all of this, comprehending the divinity around us. That is literally our only job and sadhana. If we can keep it in our mind 24 hours, constantly looking, churning, thinking, then we're doing fantastically well. The reason why we have the sadhana of like reading 2 shlokas a day is just that. You read those 2 shlokas, it acts as a reminder to look for this throughout the day. Right?
And as we said, again, like to connect it back to what Abhinav said, everything here is actually very, very, very simple. And Bhagwanji has made it simple so that it is not just within the reach of smart, intelligent, rich people with lots of resources, whether those resources are in the form of your body, your resources are in the form of, see, what is the resources? You have 3 different types of sampatti, right? The sampatti of body. If you are healthy and you have all healthy body, that's a sampatti of health, sampatti of body. Okay. Not everybody has that. If you have a strong mind, you have an intelligent, well-working mind, That is the sampatti of your mind. And then there is sampatti of resources, richness of resources, richness of body, richness of mind, and richness of resources around you, richness of means. 3 types of riches in this world. Bhagwanji has made understanding him and acquiring moksha so simple that it does not matter whether you have any or in none of these riches. A person with none of these riches will still be able to achieve him. That's how simple he has made it. We make it complicated for ourselves. So everything he tells us are extremely simple steps. Very simple steps. Do puja. You can't do puja with resources because you don't have resources. Do it in your mind. Okay, nothing complicated to remember. Very simple naam jap. Please do those simple naam jap. Do simple exercise to keep your body healthy. Eat simple food to keep your body and your mind healthy. Do simple bhajans or read or do swadhyay. Very, very simple things. They don't require complicated thinking, complicated work, maneuvers, hundreds of maneuvers to get to your goal. It only requires one thing, intention. If you have the intention, you will make it work. If you don't have the intention, you will not make it work, and your ego and your mind will find 200 reasons as to why it is not possible. And it is very reasonably not possible. Only thing is intention. Get your intention straight, everything else will fall into place. For everything. I can't read two shlokas a day. Intention. I can't remember this stuff. Intention. You've not put intention into it. I can't do puja. Intention. I can't do exercise. Intention. Once you get your intention in play, after that, don't use your brain. Don't use your brain. There's nothing here that requires brain. It requires repetition. It requires consistency. Your mind is a sponge. Your mind will become whatever it is exposed to. Whatever it is exposed to. If you do our Anushtan, that Anushtan, for example, one of the Anushtans I did last year, said do Narayan Kavach 3 times a day. It did not say do your Narayan Kavach 3 times. I can't just sit in the morning, I have time right now, let's complete 3 times Narayan Kavach now, I'm ready for the day. No, that's not the intention. The intention is for you to remember Narayan and seek his help, seek his protection 3 times a day to keep you connected to him. You have to do it in the morning, you have to do it in the afternoon, you have to do it at night. Okay? There's a reason why it has been prescribed that way. The only thing is you have to keep your mind connected to him, exposed again and again and again and again. How easy is this for you to remember something that you expose to it again and again? It is not about intelligence, right? It is about exposure. Whatever you expose your mind to, it will become that. Okay? So very, very simple things. Very simple things. Okay. We'll go to the shlok 9.
Yeah.
Kavita, will you read?
How do such devotees conduct themselves? The Lord says,
Machita madgata prana
Machita madgata prana
bodhayanta parasparam
bodhayanta parasparam
katyantascha mam nityam
katyantacha mam nityam
kathayantascha mam nityam
katayantascha mam nityam
dushyanti cha ramanti cha.
dushyanti cha ramanti cha.
Machita is with chit in me, with your chit in me. Madgata prana, with your prana shakti in me, life force. What we typically in yoga is referred to as breath, but it is not breath. It is a prana shakti inside that breath. Okay. Bodhayantaha is enlightening each other. Parasparam, constantly, continuously. Kathiyantascha, speak of, to speak. Mam nityam, of me, constantly, continuously, at all times, nityam. Tushyanti, contented. Ramanticha, absorbed in me. Absorbed. So this is where we are saying, how do such devotees conduct themselves? So let's see that.
With their minds fixed in me, with the life force dedicated to me, they enlighten each other, ever speaking of me alone, and feel contented, delighting in the observation of their minds in me. The absorption of minds of devotees in the Lord. The minds of such devotees are always absorbed in the Lord. Whatever they do or live for is only for dedication to the Lord. Whatever they talk to each other pertains to the grace, bounties, and kindness of the Lord. They cease looking at the object of the world for their satisfaction, because in every occurrence, circumstance, or person of the world, they see nothing but the vision of their adored Lord.
So when you reach this state, right? So this is, imagine a person who has reached enlightenment, right? Two things happen. One is they feel so much love because they're no longer deluded. And second, they look at everybody who doesn't have that and feel compelled to talk about it to others so that they don't have to face suffering. It's like Gautam Buddha. Gautam Buddha did not want suffering. 7 years he went into penance, achieved enlightenment. Then he couldn't be king anymore. The expected role for him in this kingdom, he couldn't be that. He had to dedicate his life to talk about Bhagwanji. That compelled him over anything else. He wanted everybody else to achieve Siddh or enlightenment, right? And this is true for most people who walk this path and achieve enlightenment, whether it's Zen Buddhism, whether it's Buddhist monks, whether it's Vipassana people, whether it's Om Swami, they've left, once they reach that state, their entire life, Dalai Lama, entire life is about talking about Bhagwanji. And that's where it starts, that's where it ends. And that becomes very visible in our life when we start relating to these saintly figures around us. Read their books, read their quotes, watch their interviews. It will become very clear to us that that's exactly how they behave. Because they understand that's the only thing real.
So the word matchita, mattachita and madgata prana. Matchita is absorption of your chitta in him. Now, this is a reflection of the current, the tools inside of us, right? There's a difference between swayam ka kisi cheez mein lagna versus the tools ka kisi cheez mein lagna. Okay, swayam is this karan inside of us, the jivatma, who we call me, and then our chit, our ego, our intellect, our mind, everything are the tools to this, right? Tools to this aham, swayam, right? Now you can deploy your tools into some task, but this person can be separate from it, right? Because you've seen that, right? You can be washing clothes, you can be running with your mind somewhere else, you somewhere else, right? If you are doing a certain activity like that, for example, if you're running, if you're not fully present to running, then you're not running. Your body is running, but your other aspects of your life are engaged with other activities, right? So you can do activities of God without that swayam being in him. But when swayam becomes him, says, I am his, when your swayam becomes Raman in that, when you feel like I belong to Bhagwanji and Bhagwanji belongs to me, all your tools will naturally go and work for Bhagwanji. So it's possible for you to use your tools for something or somebody without you feeling that I belong to this. But if I belong to something, all my tools will come with it naturally. Okay. Now, when you say I belong to Bhagwanji and Bhagwanji belongs to me, that will only happen when there is love. when there is a sense of apnapan, when there is a feeling of atmiyata, when there's a feeling of oneness or belongingness. If you don't have a sense of belongingness, you will not feel that love. So you have to evaluate that also inside of you. Do you feel like you belong? You have a belongingness there. You have the capacity to belonging. If your soul, if it was not an image of the Lord, it would never be able to acquire Lord. It will never be able to become Lord. Jatiyata. Your soul, your jivatma is an ansh of him. So it's a hologram of him. That's why it is able to reflect him. That is why it is able to become him. It is able to attain him. If that potential wasn't there, if that jatiyata wasn't there, it would not be able to attain it in the first place. There's no way. Okay, so you have a potential for belongingness. You have to ask yourself, do you actually feel like you deserve it? Do you feel like you deserve to be Bhagwanji? Do you approve of yourself to be Bhagwanji? Do you accept him as you and you belonging to him? Once you get to that level, that's when all of your karan will anyway start to serve him. Naturally, if you follow, everything else will follow. Right? So when we swim, one of the things that they talk about, a swimming instructor will always tell you, is that your body will go where your eyes go. So if you want to swim straight, look straight. Your eyes will go here, your body will go there. Your eyes will go down, you will go down, your body will go down. Everything follows eyes. Right? So that's one thing you focus on, everything else will take care of itself. Then you don't have to think about your body. Where is my body going? Okay. Similarly here, Swayam, you focus on yourself, like I belong to Bhagwanji, everything else will follow course. They will do Bhagwanji ki seva. And then prana, so mad chitta, mad gata prana. Prana means basically all cheshtas that we do, all activities, all kriyas that we do, right? They also can belong to Bhagwanji, right? So all your yagya, everything that you do will then become a yagya, will become an anushtan. All activities, all things that you're doing to discipline yourself become an anushtan for you. Right? So it all elevates itself. That consciousness, everything elevates itself. And such people are always, when you meet somebody, your only conversation is about Bhagwanji. What does that mean? It doesn't mean that you're discussing Ramcharitmanas or Gita with people. It means that you're talking of Bhagwanji, meaning aapke muh se kuch negative cheez niklegi nahi. You cannot gossip. When you gossip, if you're gossiping, you're not talking of Bhagwanji. You will stop gossiping. You talk about somebody, you will only talk about Bhagwanji in him. That means you will talk about their good qualities. You will talk about their potential. You will talk about what value they bring. That doesn't mean that you will, like, if somebody needs improvement, you will not tell that person that oh, you're amazing, you're amazing, you're amazing, and you will not give tough feedback. The way you will give tough feedback also, but you will give it from a space of love. That is worshipping Bhagwanji. That is talking about Bhagwanji. You're only doing his worship and you're only talking about him. Kathyantascha mam nityam. You're only talking about me everywhere. Okay. And then tushyanti, because they are constantly in that space, they are contented and they are happy. So how do you know whether you are in yoga or bhog? Are you tushyanti and ramanti cha? Are you in a space of calmness? Are you in a space of peace? Are you in a space of happiness? Or are you agitated in some way? If you're agitated, you're in a space of bhog. Find out where was that bhog happening? Where is that bhog happening that is causing this agitation? Yoga will never cause agitation. Find it, fix it. Then you've become that bhakt. So these are all things to tell us to find out where we are. Every one of these shlokas is important. It's telling us something really deep on how we can apply these principles. It's all about application and showing us through examples, because we learn best with examples. Okay. We go to the next one. Who will read this one? Rituj, will you read?
The Lord now says that what he does for such devotees.
Tesham satat yuktanam
Tesham satata yuktanam
Bhajatam Priti Purvakam
bhajatam priti purvakam
Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam
dadami buddhi yogam tam
Yena Ma Yena Mamupayanti Te.
yena mamu yena mamupayanti te.
Tesham is those people, Satata, constantly, always, Yuktanam, who are connected to me, Bhajatam, worship me, Priti Purvakam, with Priti, with love, Dadami, give, Buddhi Yogam. So I give Buddhi Yoga, the yoga of wisdom, to them. That, I give that. Yena mamupiyantite, using which yen, they, them, mamupiyanti, they attain me, they obtain me, they get me.
Endowment of the yoga of wisdom to the devotees by the Lord.
Read the
Italics,
italics, please.
italics, italics.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. To such ones who are ever devoted to me and who worship me with utmost love, I grant that yoga of wisdom with which they attain me. Endowment of the yoga of wisdom to the devotees by the Lord. The Lord illumines the mind of those devotees with the light of perception, who, keeping their mind fixed on the Lord, worship the Lord with utmost love. Ordinarily, it is accepted that knowledge can be acquired by deep study and research. This is so in the case of worldly erudition. But here, what is being talked about is not that knowledge, but perception, which enables a person to achieve self realization. The Lord Himself is concretized perception. How He can be perceived only if the mind is constantly absorbed in Him and if He is worshipped in every manner. Chanting of His names and singing of His glories is certainly His worship, but performance of the duties of life with His remembrance and dedication to Him also constitutes His worship. Both are complementary to each other. By chanting His names and singing His glories, the feeling of dedication becomes intense. Thus, performance of duties accompanied by chanting of His names makes worship complete.
So, two aspects of this shloka, right? The second aspect first. When you want something from someone in a very crude way, how would you behave? You would be nice, you would compliment, you will be charming, you will be sweet, and eventually hope that those tools work as a way to melt their heart and say, "Theek hai yaar, you're a good guy. I'll give it to you." Right? We use this unconsciously, consciously in our relationships. We see our children use it extremely well on a daily basis. Right? This is the second aspect of the shloka. If we be that way, be children to Bhagwan Ji and call out to him like his children, there is nothing left in him. He's longing for that. And he will give us his grace, which is the second aspect, which is the first aspect of this explanation. Self-realization as a word, if you were to break it down, right, there are two aspects to it. One is the capital S self, and the second is the word realization, right? Realization means realizing something. Realizing means you already know it. Now you've realized it. You've always known it to be true. Now you've realized it.
It was there in the latent, or the
It was-
potential has become active now. It's come to fore.
Correct. And this is very different to worldly knowledge, which we talked about in chapter 9. If you need to learn how to study a helicopter, how to fly a helicopter, you cannot realize that knowledge. You have to acquire that knowledge. For you to know algebra, you cannot realize it. You have to acquire it, and then you have to practice to master it. With self-realization, it is a matter of effort. It is a matter of us singing his praises, being in yoga, as Tuina mentioned. And it is his grace that will help us realize it. It is his final act that will help us achieve moksha by changing our perception. That is self-realization.
So when Bhagwanji is saying in the second sentence, right, that I will give them buddhi yoga, I will give them buddhi yoga, right? So with his grace, as Abhinav said, you will get the buddhi yoga. What does buddhi yoga mean? And who gets this buddhi yoga, right? Anybody who's just like walking around in the street won't get it. It's not like anybody and everybody gets it. You have to become adhikari of it. You have to deserve it. You have to become deserving of something to get it. Same for this knowledge, right? For you to get this knowledge, you have to first make yourself deserving. That's the only thing you can do. You can make yourself deserving of it. Once you become deserving of it, Bhagwanji will give it to you. So before this, we learned what do we need to do to become deserving of it, right? Satata yuktanam, constantly in yoga. Your intellect is constantly the yoga buddhi. And because you're constantly in yoga buddhi, so you're seeing him. Now he has given you an ability to see him everywhere, right? So now he's given you the ability to connect to him everywhere. For such a person, he's constantly in his worship. He's doing his duties, but he's doing it as a worship, right? If he's doing everything as a worship, then what happens? He has no chinta. He has no responsibilities. He has nothing to do, because all of that is given to Bhagwanji. He's brought these 10 people in my life. I have to be with them. I will do my dharma towards each of these people. He has brought this work on my table. I will do my work because this is my duty to do so. Uske baad jo result hoga. I will give it my best, bringing everything that Bhagwanji has given me as tool set to bear on this problem, to do my work. Then he has no tension about his health. Now, whether you have health or no health, whether you have money or no money, you have certain resources that you want, or whether you have it, you don't have it. It doesn't matter, because now all of this is given to him. It is his responsibility. It is his job. It is his chinta. Your work is only to sing his glories on your day-to-day life with zero chinta and with complete faith that he is bringing the best to you, right? When you are in that space, then these are the people who will get what else? What else will Bhagwanji give them? What is Buddhi Yoga? What else will he give them? He'll give them equanimity. Equanimity to deal with every VVGP with complete sense of vairagya, so that you are happy in every situation, whatever happens, fame or infamy, whether it is whether you have good health or you don't have, when something gets taken from you, because everything, why does he have to give us equanimity? Because the world we live in is kshana bhangur, it is transient. So things will come to you and they will go away. Certain things, when they will come to you, they will cause pain in coming. Certain things will cause pleasure in coming. And when they leave you, which they will, the ones that cause pleasure will now cause pain. Right? So you need to have equanimity. He will give us equanimity in that video to be able to see everything as his lila and to remain in bliss connected to him. Yes,
Harith.
Raj.
Just a share. Yesterday in the other Gita group, there was this thing that Vinika Chachi had sent, which I think applies here. There was this quote which said that my dark days made me strong, or maybe I was already strong and they made me prove it.
So
So you know what is latent, and we all have those qualities within us. It's just that it's just a perspective and perception. That's right.
It's also the focus, na? You're focusing on your internal state
Hmm.
rather than the dark days.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
usually on a daily basis, we focus and judge of the dark days. Why are they coming to us? Aisa hua mere saath. But beautiful. Yeah, the focus is on the internal state.
And also, I think maybe it's the concept. We should focus on the days, not really the darkness of it. We add an adjective to it from our own perception. It's just a situation at the end of it. And, you know, it's the situation that makes us cope with it and whatever it is. So I think that also is.
Absolutely. So that's another very important thing that you said, Rituj. It is our perception. Things are as they are. Things are. The world is, right? Things happen to us, and then our mind goes in, and then it puts adjectives to it based on our own likes and dislikes. Whatever is the state of your antakaran, your mind, it will find an adjective according to its state and put an adjective to it. And then the rest of your interaction is then based on that perception. That is why we say that everything outside of you is a reflection of inside of you. Because it is inside of you that provides that perception, that provides that lens, that provides that way of interpreting something. It is your internal state of mind.
So, another way to understand it, right? Life is an experience. It's we who decide whether it's a good experience or a bad experience. The moment we put those labels, we make our experience with it tougher. Otherwise, if it's in the flow, it's just an experience.
Correct. Another important thing that you have to remember, like all the time, I've said it a lot of times, but I can't emphasize it enough, so I'll say it again. We are always right. We are always right. We can never be wrong. We are always right. Whatever we say about ourselves, about our life, about our children, about our family, about our experience of life, about our job, about who we are, it is always going to be right. You will create it in your life because you're always right. You say it, you will create it. You say it with full belief. If you believe it, you will create it. Now, there is, unfortunately, for all of us, we're not true to ourselves. And so we don't know what we are saying is really what we believe in. Half the time we say stuff that we don't believe in, and we don't say stuff that we believe in. It is what we truly believe in is what is being referred to here. I will always be right. I will always be right in what I believe in. But the question is, do you even know what your beliefs are? What your core tightly held beliefs are? So start from the nivritti of those beliefs. First, find out, become aware of your own core belief system, of who you are, what life is, who others are, and what you're doing in your life. Become aware of those core belief systems. Do the nivritti of those that are not serving you, those that are not in line with the principles, and then acquire those beliefs that are in line with the scriptures, with Bhagwanji's teachings. And then you will become him. That is exactly what we are reading here. And that is what creates that Aham Brahmasmi. Right? Shivoham, Shivoham. I am Shiva. I am Brahma. Somebody else wants to take up the seva for closing shlokas? Okay.
Om Sarvesham Swastirбhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Punam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaccheduka Bhag Bhavet Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityomar Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Om. Ah.